Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. Have you ever felt that tight knot in your stomach when you're faced with a huge change? Maybe it's the fear of failing, or maybe it's just the sheer anxiety of stepping into the unknown. Today, I wanted to talk about fear and anxiety and how we can transform through it instead of getting stuck by it. At the Sisterhood Collective, we're all about supporting women through every stage of their journey, whether it's personal growth, professional development, or just navigating anything that life throws at you. Fear and anxiety show up all the time during these pivotal moments. It's something that can either stop us in our tracks or, and this is where it gets exciting, it can fuel your growth. It can help you propel forward. And whether you're launching a business, changing careers, stepping into a room full of strangers to speak on stage, at an event, fear is a natural reaction. But it doesn't have to stop you. So today I wanted to share how we can navigate fear and anxiety and use it to push us forward instead of really holding us back. What exactly is fear and anxiety? Fear is often tied to the unknown. It's our mind's way of protecting us from perceived threats, whether they're emotional, physical, or mental. And anxiety, on the other hand, it's that lingering sense of worry that kind of creeps in when we're anticipating something challenging or new. I think we all get struck by this, actually. You know, I've seen this a lot within the collective of friends that I've crossed paths with over the last few years. But I'm actually, I think, more opened to it or more aware of what's going on. And when I see this fear and anxiety, friends who are on the verge of stepping into something new, deciding whether to launch their business idea, applying for a promotion, a job, a complete change in direction, changing their relationship status, or, you know, going through a breakup, or even just making a lifestyle change, we feel this anxiety about what could go wrong. It definitely keeps us up at night. And we're thinking about it constantly beforehand. And this is normal. Fear and anxiety are part of the journey, especially when you're pushing for personal and professional growth. This is why we have the growth room. We tackle these emotions head on because it's not about just learning the strategies or setting the goals. It's about learning how to move through fear instead of, you know, allowing it to stop us. I wanted to share a couple of personal stories because one of the most vivid examples of fear for me was when I was only, I think, around 20 years old, and I was deployed in East Timor. This was my second deployment in the army. And we arrived just after, a few days after the militia had run riot through the country, and that aftermath was just absolutely devastating, and it still impacts me to this day. But I remember traveling for a few days by ship, and then, of course, at the crack of dawn, we boarded the landing craft so that we could, you know, get to shore and then drive onto land. And I was a young soldier, so I just did as I was told. And I was driving a truck in a convoy, and I remember taking a wrong turn down a street in the city. I wasn't leading the convoy, just doing as I was told, as I said. But we had to turn around, and trust me, retracing your steps when you're in the unknown is something you never want to be doing. The fear in that moment was intense, and I didn't know the area that well. I wasn't really fully aware of the threat because it was so new. This operation was such a new thing. Yet I had to just keep moving forward. And the next day we arrived at a new location, and it was around midnight, and I was tasked with a security duty, so a roving picket, so walking around a compound at about 2 a.m. And this was a tiny little compound, and we were a very small contingent, probably about 8 people. So I did this roving picket all alone. It was dark, and I had absolutely no idea of the lay of the land or what surrounded us. I didn't know what I'd do if something happened. My heart was racing for the entire hour. I definitely had sweaty palms. It was a fearful good hour, let me tell you. But at the same time, I also felt quite brave. I felt strong, and I also felt confident. And it's really hard to explain. But that's what fear can do. It can make you feel vulnerable and powerful all at once. We all have these moments when fear takes over, but pushing through them, even when we don't want to, even when we don't know what's ahead, this is where the growth happens. You've probably heard of this before, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Another really big transformation for me that I've been through recently was moving back to Abu Dhabi. You know, at first the fear kind of crept in. What if it isn't the right move? And I mean, I even asked just in the last couple of weeks, have I done the right thing? What if I don't settle? You know, I'm bringing Lulu over here. What if she doesn't settle? Am I doing the right thing? I've spent all this money and all this time. I've told all these people. And I knew it was going to be a big change. But of course, there's going to be anxiety there every step of the way. But I also knew that this transformation was necessary for me to grow. And I'm really happy that we've done it. She's only just arrived last week, so our cup is quite full right now. And then another time, I guess, that I wanted to share was, you know, starting new businesses. And I've done quite a few now, but the fear of things like, what if this doesn't work? Or what if I'm not good enough to lead this? It's always there. I remember when I first opened Ultra CrossFit back in 2013. I remember the first opening day going, what if nobody signs up? And even when I ran my first class, what if I'm not good enough to deliver the information that these members need from me? The same thing when I started a coffee shop. I don't know anything about coffee. What if I don't do the coffee right? What if my latte art isn't good enough? And it 100% wasn't. But, you know, I fumbled through all of these things and I've just kept going. Eventually that anxiety, it stopped. And I used it, I guess, just to, as fuel to keep pushing forward and also to succeed. I don't really want to fail, but I'm also happy to fail these days, not back in the day, but these days I'm more accepting to it. But that anxiety of the unknown it drives you to learn more, you know, soak more in, try different things and experiment and all that good stuff. Some practical ways to move through fear and anxiety. Let's talk a little bit about that, because first off, your mindset shifts are, you know, really critical in this sort of a situation. And I do talk about this a lot. Instead of seeing fear as something negative, you know, try to reframe it as an opportunity for growth. I always say, you know, rewrite the story or change the narrative. I've been known to say fear is your compass. So therefore, when fear shows up, it's often pointing you towards exactly where you need to grow. When fear shows up, it's often a sign that you're stepping out of your comfort zone and, of course, into new opportunities, you know, opening up new doors for learning and personal development and for who knows what else. But I can tell you, opportunity definitely awaits. So essentially, fear is just pointing you towards the areas that will help you grow the most if you face them head on. Some of the tools that have worked for me when I get into these situations, and by the way, sometimes I don't even realize I'm there. I need somebody to remind me, Loza, what's all the stuff that you're constantly saying to people? I'm like, yep, good point. And I need that nudge too. Just like you, I need my people to keep me on track and help me along the way. But the first one, as I said, is reframing those negative thoughts. Instead of what if I fail, you know, you could try, what if this is the best thing that ever happens to me? And another really good strategy is those mindfulness practices. And, you know, right now we're doing a 30-day mindfulness challenge or practices in the free lounge room group. And we do that for a reason. But when I feel overwhelmed by fear, or even just in general, actually, I take 5 minutes to find some quiet. And this is a practice I've been doing for quite a while now, probably for a few years, because this is when I learnt what I need to do to regroup or reset myself. So I take 5 minutes to just find some quiet, breathe deeply for a little bit. I close my eyes and then I just visualize thriving on the other side of the transformation. And here's something. If you've never done a little exercise where you've visualized or worked out what the thriving version of yourself looks like, do yourself a favor and give it a go, because it's what helps me through all these exercises. Another one is journaling. So far I've said reframing your negative thoughts, mindfulness practices. And so journaling, I find this helps untangle what's real and what's just the noise. I do this in business, I do it personally as well. And I'll often tell my mentees that when there's no space left in your mind, or you're starting to feel anxiety as to the amount that you are currently juggling, or all those commitments, that workload you have, that deadline you need to meet, then do a brain dump. Because journaling doesn't actually have to make sense. And I think the term sometimes confuses us, but it doesn't need to make sense. It might for some people that have been doing it for a while, or if you're a good writer, but there's no right or wrong way of doing it. And the first time I did it, which was in Bali, the lady guiding us said, just write anything that comes to your mind. And I did do that. And sure, a lot of the stuff was kind of a bit like a to-do list, but I got it out of my head and out of the way and got to create space, so that then following on from that, we went into a bit of a meditative state, if I can say that word. But it was really therapeutic. And actually, I felt better for it. And then after the therapeutic kind of session that we were doing, or was it a retreat? It was, I had clarity actually in my mind. Now when I do it, I generally will play some sort of tranquil, kind of relaxing focus music or something in the background. I find that helps me calm, just get that calm and relax a little bit. And then the fourth strategy is goal setting, which I talk about all the time. It probably is annoying, but breaking whatever transformation you're chasing into smaller steps. We focus a lot on setting actionable and bite-sized goals or steps to take towards moving your goals, whether fear is there or not. We do this a lot in the growth room. I set goals. I set big ones. I set little ones. I do them quarterly. I do them annually. I do them sometimes weekly or monthly. It really depends. And I need to visually see them on a daily basis. So I have them on my board in my office. And honestly, if I don't have them or I don't see them, I get lost and I just really feel directionless. But don't be afraid of thinking big or dreaming big, or don't be afraid of just putting a goal down that just doesn't even seem like it's fathomable. What if it is? What if you get halfway there? It's better than not getting there at all. It's a journey. Knowing the difference between fear and intuition is important. This is how I would probably describe it best, if I can. So for me, fear tends to scream at me, while intuition is just that little bit quieter, because fear wants to protect you from that discomfort. But intuition, it's more of a grounded voice that guides you. Do you agree with that? By the way, I'd love to hear back from you as to how this feels for you. Perhaps you can recognize the difference, or perhaps you have a different way of describing it. I'd love to hear from you if you do. Sometimes when you share your fears with others, I find that, and by the way, I only do that with, my closest people, but I feel like they can help me see whether it's truly something to avoid, or if it's just fear that's holding me back and that I'm probably just making excuses. And that's another reason that having your people, those that you can trust and rely on, that you can share this information with, is helpful, because they have that external perspective and it can really make a difference in discerning what's driving you. So if you find yourself in this position, and I actually truly hope you do, because it means you're on the edge of growth, here's what I want you to do. So firstly, take a moment just to acknowledge the fear. Don't ignore it. Don't push it away. Think about what's really behind it. Is it the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, or the fear of unknown? And now ask yourself, is this fear holding you back from making positive change in your life? Then I want you to think about taking one small action towards that fear. It doesn't have to be a huge leap. It could be as simple as writing it down. It could be sharing it with someone you trust, or it could be just taking that first tiny step towards your goal. The key is you have to move, because even the smallest step forward creates this momentum. And once you've started, you'll see the path way more clearly. I want to remind you that fear isn't a stop sign. It's just a signal that something's important on the other side. So take that first step, no matter how small, and keep moving. Progress is progress, no matter the size. And if you feel comfortable, please share that step with us in the Sisterhood Lounge Room. There's something incredibly empowering about putting it out there and just having a group of women cheering you on. At the end of the day, fear and anxiety are part of the growth journey, both personal and professional. And, I believe that these feelings, they don't have to stop you. They can be the very thing that propels you forward. And if you take nothing else from today's episode, just remember this. Moving through fear is where transformation happens. And when you face it head on, not only do you change yourself, but you actually become a beacon for others to do the same. That's the ripple effect. And that's what we're creating at the Sisterhood. You're not alone in this. We're a collective for a reason. And we're here to help you thrive through every transformation. Thank you so much for listening in today. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.